If I gave you the choice of working with 5 active buyers or securing one listing, which would you choose? Many newer agents would choose the 5 buyers. Many, almost all top producing agents would choose securing one listing. There's a lot of reasons to this, but in order to create a business that has scalability, growth potential, as well as creating some consistency, stability to the business, the listing gives you so many long-term benefits to growth. The challenge is you literally have to ignore those 5 buyers to go get that one listing. And it is hard for a newer agent or an agent that maybe does not have a lot of transactions in the pipeline to shift their focus off what they believe to be immediate closings. But as we get into this video, we'll start to break down why that's not always the case, to long-term growth, right? If you go after listings the right way with the right system, you can absolutely make it a faster closing, but there are some steps to follow. So in this video, I'm going to go over 7 reasons why securing that one listing is critical to your long-term growth versus chasing those 5 buyers. I'm not saying don't work with buyers. I am saying taking a very specific mindset shift towards prospecting for listings is critical to surviving in this business long-term or leaving within a few years. So the first thing that I wrote down, working with the seller means you have a client who is less likely to change their mind. How many times have you worked with a buyer, you've shown them, 10, 20 homes, and then they simply change their mind because they're frustrated with the market or the process, right? Yes, they may circle back down the road. Yes, you should keep in touch with that client. But when you have a listing, there's a lot that goes into prepping your house, getting it ready, doing some staging, having the agent in, having strangers walk through your house. Most sellers are very committed to the process, especially in this market. There's going to be so many people, if you do it right, there's going to be so many people through that property in such a short amount of time. There is a lot of stress that goes into that. So for someone to go through all that without a strong desire to actually sell is not likely. But a husband and wife grabbing a cup of coffee, going to look at a few properties on the weekend, that's almost a hobby. And some people don't mind finding an agent to do that with no real intention of buying. Just some light curiosity, right? So you're more efficient with your time because you have the chance to work with a more motivated prospect. That's the first reason. Second thing I wrote down, it allows you to control your time, right? And we've talked about this on some of the past videos, depending on how long you've been with me. That one listing appointment, if you do it right and you prepare, takes you 45 minutes to an hour in the field, right? And then depending on where you are in your business, you could essentially handle the rest of that transaction virtually on the phone. You can have another agent help you show property if you'd like. If you still want to show property, great, but you don't have to, right? It allows you to start to leverage your time and scale your business. So you're not stuck with the family going back, the contractor going back to measure the property, the inspection, all the showings in the beginning. All those trips take time. Even if the property's 5 minutes away from your house, all those trips take time. And we all know that in most cases, that property that you're showing is not your neighbor. So it takes time to get there as well. So the time piece is critical because it allows you to focus on those activities that are going to continue growing your business versus a lot of the reactionary activities that the buyer transaction brings to the table. So the second thing is you can control your time. Third thing I wrote down, you can control the rules and systems that you're using to show that listing, right? When you're a buyer agent, if that listing agent or seller is only showing it certain times, there's not much you can do there, right? If they're requiring certain things in their offer, you have to do what they want to try to win that property. When you're the listing agent, you can have a conversation with your seller to make the rules that leverage that client based on the marketplace, or rules that have worked for you in your business that allow you to continue to control your time and scale your business while at the same time putting them in the best position to get the most money possible. You create how the property is shown, how the offer, when the offers come in by, how the offers will be presented, what contract the seller prefers. All of that, all of those systems and questions are things that you can choose. And as you grow and you list more property, you'll learn what works for you and your clients and what puts them in winning positions, and you can then, tweak those systems and make them better over time. So it allows you to make the rules. Next thing that I wrote down. Listen, when you list property, it allows you to receive leads, right? If you put a sign up on the internet in a yard, people will call you, right? If they buy the property, great. Some of them won't buy the property and they'll need to buy another property. So now you have created a system just by listing a property where people will call you for real estate questions, information, advice. If you don't have a listing and you're a new agent, most people probably aren't calling you. Unless you have some really good prospecting systems that we talk about in some of our other videos, which I encourage you to put into place as well, because you start to create these synergies where you're listing properties, you're getting calls from the signs, and then you're prospecting and you're creating opportunities from there, and that's really where your business takes off. But again, if you can't control your time, you can never put the efforts in to let these synergies take place. Okay, so you will receive more business when you list a property. Next thing I wrote down is you control your income. You can have a minimum standard for what you want to charge in the marketplace. You sit down, you agree on those terms before you start working. With the buyer, yes, you can also sit down and make those terms with the buyer. At the same time, we all know when you start negotiating and you represent the buyer, if you have a seller on the other end who's not willing to pay the commission, the first thing they start going after is your commission, right? Which may cause you to have to then have a conversation with your buyer. With the seller, you know it up front. Everyone agrees before you start putting your time, effort, and energy into working with that client. You know you're on the same page. You know you're going to get paid what you agreed to if you do the job. There's not another party that's going to try to take away from you on the seller side, where on the buyer side, it's more likely. Next thing I wrote down, it allows you to treat the business, your real estate business, like a business and not a job. When you put a sign in the ground or list a property for sale, you now employ the thousands of realtors who work for your multiple listing service for you. They will show their buyers your listing. So now, of course, you're working for your seller, but you have others working for you too that will create more competition and get your seller the better price. So you're putting others to work for you, which further allows you to control and leverage your time. If again, going back to my initial point, if you get to the point where you really start listing property, have some great systems, you can either refer out buyer business so you can keep listing property without lacking service to the buyers who want to see your listings. So you're helping another agent, you're keeping the foot traffic in so your seller can have that competition they need, and it allows you to have the free time to keep listing. This is where you can really, really start to scale your business. But it all starts with the controlling of the time and the mindset of understanding why the impact these 7 things can really have on your business when you start putting them all together. The last thing I wrote down, it helps with your brand recognition. You put a sign in the ground, the neighbors see your name. Now you list another one in town, the neighbors see your name. Slowly, when you do that over time, you start to, if you do nothing else, you start to have some awareness. You know how much money it costs to put your name on a billboard? Or the regulations to put a sign, in a business. You got to get the town to approve it. There's a real estate sign, you just put it in the ground when you get a listing, right? There's no cost to it, or you pay your sign company minimal fees, depending on which brokerage you work for. But the cost is very small to the recognition of your brand over time as you list more and more property. Some people are really embracing the videos and how important that is with social media to create your brand recognition. When you back that with the sign in the ground, you're covering both bases, and you really have a strong, free, almost free brand creator for you, where back in the day, this would have cost thousands and thousands of dollars to create the brand you can do this day and age between social media and just flat out listing property. So, I don't want to have this video spiral into too many other segments. If you really want to talk more lead generation on how to list more property, drop a comment below. Happy to send you a video I did on that. And if this was helpful, click subscribe. That's one of the ways, if you made it to the end here, that's one of the ways that I can tell if the content was helpful and I should make more, on similar topics, or if maybe it was a dud. So hope this video helps. Take a look at these 7 things, put some thought into it. If you're happy doing a couple deals a year, I get it. Some people really like working with buyers. I get it. And I'm not saying, if that's you, I'm not saying give it up completely. But what I am, and if you want to do, if this is something you're doing on the side, you work with a friend here or there, it's like a social thing, I'm not knocking that. But if you're trying to grow and make this a business and a career that you can rely on when a market is tough or when a market is great, so you can provide for your family and your life, having this mindset shift towards generating listings, this focus on listings, is the catalyst that will keep it growing and get you to the next level. See you next time.